Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone is having an amazing day today. That's right. It is Tuesday, March 28th. And I hope you all are ready for this because today is National Weed Day. National Weed Appreciation Day. Now, granted, they're not talking about the weed that we all know and love. They're talking about all that pollen that's sprayed from all the weeds across the country. But nonetheless, we're going to appreciate the weed today. And it's also National Black Forest Cake Day, National Something on a Stick Day, National Triglycerides Day, and American Diabetes Association Alert Day. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can use that fancy little QR code right there in the top hand portion of your screen to find out where we live on the internet. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us in Clubhouse, you can comment on the show on the story most recently presented if you choose to raise your hand. But coming up first, that's right, we have the fierce, fiery redhead that loves to tell everybody about themselves. She also loves to tell her dogs about themselves when she dresses them up in clown outfits and commits in animal cruelty. That's right. It is the redheaded conservative herself. That's right. It's Gretchen Gailey.
I'll have you know that my babies enjoy those words of affirmation when they are going into their pajamas to keep warm and snuggle. They're awesome. Don't hate, Jason, just because you don't have any pajamas yourself.
I don't wear pajamas.
We need to get you a pair.
I'm still not going to wear them.
Maybe some high at 9 pajamas.
Ooh, a onesie.
I could see that.
To the nightclub.
What?
I would wear the high at 9 news onesie to the nightclub.
Yikes. That's a thought I can't get out of my head. All right. My headline is coming from MJ Biz Daily. Justice Department could help marijuana industry via Cole Memo 2.0 or hurt reform. As federal marijuana inches forward in a Congress paralyzed by partisan gridlock, more immediate progress might have to come from the Biden administration. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland's Department of Justice might approach the thorny issue of cannabis banking when his office revisits its approach towards the state legal but federally prohibited marijuana industry. A friendly or at least hands-off Justice Department would be welcome news to marijuana businesses frustrated and exhausted with inaction in Congress, where bipartisan reform bills such as the Safe Banking Act remain stalled. However, a policy memo by itself, much like the landmark 2013 Cole Memo, is unlikely to convince more banks to offer basic services to marijuana businesses, several observers have said. And such a document, dubbed by some insiders as a Cole Memo 2.0, could even backfire. Pro-cannabis GOP lawmakers and lobbyists attempting to win necessary conservative support for marijuana reform in Congress fear that unilateral action, though consistent with President Joe Biden's MJ rescheduling review and low-level federal pardons, could turn off congressional Republicans. That in turn would make it more difficult to pass major reform legislation such as cannabis banking and removing marijuana from Schedule I of the Controlled Substances Act. I'm happy that both Congress and the administration are beginning to look more seriously at the need for federal cannabis reform. That's according to U.S. Rep. Dave Joyce, Ohio Republican and lead sponsor of marijuana reform. However, it would be most helpful if both branches worked in coordination as opposed to unilaterally. He added that lawmakers need answers from the agencies, and the agencies need more direction from Congress. Now I'm going to jump around a lot. The Biden administration, DOJ has been examining marijuana policy since at least last year, Garland said during a March 1st congressional oversight hearing. Within the department, we are still working on marijuana policy that will be very close to what was done with the Cole Memorandum. And this is what Garland told to U.S. Senator Cory Booker. Neither Booker nor DOJ responded to MJ Biz Daly's request for comment. It's unclear when the DOJ might reevaluate its stance on the continuing conflict between federal drug laws and the legal medical and adult use marijuana businesses operating in 39 states. But several sources said they expect the Justice Department to move this year on so-called Cole Memo 2.0. Though some marijuana business interests would welcome a new Cole Memo, its long-term value is debatable. It would not restart cannabis, and so it would not fix the marijuana industry's ongoing headache over Section 280E of the IRS code, which prohibits businesses from deducting typical business expenses on their federal tax returns. It's also unlikely such a document would encourage more banks to serve cannabis businesses, according to Washington lobbies for both banks and marijuana interests. Banks, being much more risk-averse than folks in the cannabis industry or even state governments, are going to need much more than just a regurgitation of guidance from either the Treasury Department or DOJ, according to Morgan Fox, political director for NORML. They're going to need to see something in law before they really start getting involved. Also, an activist Biden Justice Department could fuel more investigations from a GOP-controlled House of Representatives, while also giving Republican senators pause if and when safe banking is again introduced in the state. It would also create what amount to a false dawn. Andrew Friedman, the executive director of the Coalition for Cannabis Policy, Education, and Reform, a Washington, D.C.-based lobby whose members include cannabis-involved liquor and tobacco conglomerates, called a new Cole Memo a double-edged sword that could do more harm than good. It's possible that some cannabis business interests overstated to their investors or to other interests when federal legalization might be coming. For them, a DOJ memo might offer brief cover, but only in the short term. This is ultimately now just a question for Congress. Everything else we do around the rescheduling debate just gives a lot of false hope. I would agree with all these folks. Frankly, I think another Cole Memo 2.0 would just be a waste of time. But we know that's what Joe Biden likes to do when it comes to the cannabis industry, is just waste everybody's time. So who knows? Maybe it'll come back around. But I think if they waste their time with this, it is just kicking the can down the road. Congress will look at this as another opportunity to say, oh, they're handling it over there. F it. We're not getting involved. I think another Cole Memo is just stupid. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Gretchen, I totally agree with you on this, that another Cole Memo would be totally stupid, a total waste of time, a total waste of taxpayer funds, and actually does absolutely nothing for the cannabis industry. I wish everyone in the cannabis industry understood that, because they all love to cry and whine whenever Cole Memo whatever is rescinded or whatnot. They all like to act like it's the end of the world, but the reality is the Cole Memo doesn't do anything. The only thing you can do with it is a piece of paper. So whatever you can do with a piece of paper is the only thing that you can do with the Cole Memo.
Well, the Cole Memo was supposed to, end funding for the DEA to bust.
Nope. That is a total misconception. That is a total misconception. What ends the funding is the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, now known as McClintock and Blumenauer, which is the federal spending bill that prohibits DOJ and DEA from extrapolating funds to go after state licensed cannabis businesses. The Cole Memo is not. The Cole Memo was put in by the Obama administration to just say, hey, all you DEA agents and everything, we suggest that you guys don't do anything to the weed people. That's
not exactly. No, that's not what it was. All right. Slow down, Jason Beck. Let me clarify. You are correct that Rohrabacher-Farr is what said.
Correct.
The DEA cannot go in and mess around with medical states. Not all states.
It covers all states. I will argue that
yada. I got it.
Have to be so broadly that it covers all of that.
Man, you love to talk. Hush.
Number
The Cole memo, what it did, Todd, was it gave attorney general's covers to not prosecute people. And it also gave guidelines to banks on how to work with businesses if they wanted to. That's it. That's what the Cole memo did.
So at this point, we're 10 years into 12 years into legalization. At what point do the banks say, okay, this is okay to bank?
Once we get Safe Banking Plus passed.
Some of them do.
Well, I don't even know if safe banking is really going to matter. I think you're going to need real legalization for banks to totally feel risk averse. Saman is completely correct. And over 400 banks are banking in the cannabis space at this time. Many of them are state chartered. They're credit unions. They're not the big boys. But do we really care about the big boys? What we care about when it comes to safe banking is getting rid of all the predatory bullshit. And the high fees and things that are associated with
that's exactly right. Like, we're prey right now. I mean, we're prey for everyone to pick apart, and that's what's really tragic for our industry. But it's good news because they know they're seeing the generation power of cannabis, and so as a commerce tool, it's like, let's just make this happen already so that we can actually apply for some of these small business loans that other businesses can get and are they're able to kind of apply for. Us, as we all know, we have to either perjure ourselves and lie to these people, which can come back to bite everyone in the ass, or we just have to sit there and just bootstrap it. So I know there's a lot of legacy people out there that have been doing it. So keep fighting, guys. Just keep going, because it'll happen one day soon, hopefully.
I think that the Cole memo, the original Cole memo in 2013, achieved what it set out to do, which was easy killer. It was to build confidence in these state markets so they could start to operate. Businesses could say, all right, I'm not going to immediately go to jail. I could go to jail, but I'm not, in theory, immediately going to jail. And so that has been achieved. I mean, cannabis is legalized now in 39 states. To bring back the Cole memo is just silly. It's ridiculous. And it's going to do nothing. You want to see real reform in the industry, you need to actually start passing real legislation and get some laws on the book, not some just paper memos.
Give that a clap. Give that a clap.
Oh my word.
He's right. It's a memo. It's not
memo.
even
Exactly.
nothing.
There's no
statutory.
no teeth behind it.
It's so
Like
dumb.
I said, it's just a piece of paper, and you know what pieces of paper are good for that aren't money?
Rolling joints.
No.
Wiping your ass.
Exactly right, Nicole. That's all it's good for.
Nicole, I
But we
can't
have a
believe you
bank
took
account.
the bait.
100% Nicole took the bait. She's about that life. You know it's fraudsterness when she sees
I
it.
say save the trees.
I say smoke the trees. I don't know.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I'm with that. Burn them all down. All the trees.
Look, the banks that currently bank, marijuana businesses like mine still does not accept cash, right? For me to send a wire or to receive a wire, I have to turn in 400 pieces of paper with 19 approvals, and it really is a pain in the ass. So until a bank can accept cash, as a deposit, then there really is very little banking available to the cannabis businesses.
Yep.
Very true. Very, very true, Todd. I'm with you guys on this. The Cole memo is trash, and for any of these people to do anything about it, But we got to go to a quick commercial. We're going to be right back.
Commercial.
Ads.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Alrighty, well, that brings us to everyone's favorite dog pajama hater. Calls himself the highest Republican. It is some BS, but he thinks he's in charge. We'll pretend in his cute little golden castle that he loves to mirror his Trump lover. Everyone's favorite, Jason Beck. What do you got for us?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Live from Mar-a-Lago, Gretchen. You know what time it is over here. But today, you guys, Oh boy, do I have a follow-up story actually for you guys today. There was an update. Do you remember last week when I covered that burnt out van filled with butane weed? And I said I bet you this started because the driver was like driving and getting high and fucking wanted to smoke a blunt, and so he lit a blunt and that sparked the fire. Do you remember that? Well, I'll tell you what. My shit's coming true because a burnt out van filled with marijuana left in a residential Santa Rosa street. Everybody. That's right. Concerned and confused residents of a Santa Rosa neighborhood have a lot of questions about a burnt out van that ended up parked on their street filled with butane stepped on marijuana. That's right. On March 14th, there was an explosion and a fire that erupted from the van, triggering emergency calls to the southbound Highway 101 on-ramp from 3rd Street. Fire and police responded, and firefighters put out the flames, and inside the vehicle, police discovered several 55-gallon bags of marijuana shake soaked in butane, fire officials said. The driver of the van suffered burns and was taken to a hospital for treatment, and police said that their preliminary investigation revealed that the driver had lit a cigarette in the van, which triggered the accidental explosion and fire. Cigarettes are just disgusting. But nonetheless, last week, residents near Boyd Street and Briar Bush Way, less than a mile away from the van fire, noticed the vehicle parked in their neighborhood. On Monday, KTVU visited the location and found the parked van there with the back doors open and marijuana overflowing out of the ruptured garbage bags, some spilling into the streets. The van was parked near Boyd Street and Briar Bush Way in Santa Rosa, California, and the vehicle was tagged with a bright red sign that reads Notice of Intent to Debate from the city of Santa Rosa. The notice was dated Sunday, and in the notes, it read marijuana in van previously burnt. I guess that's a message for the homeless people to not smoke this weed, but who knows? Neighbors we spoke with said that the vehicle had been there for several days and said there was no evidence that it was being monitored by police. In an email to KTVU, resident David Faberini said that the vehicle had been at the location for at least 3 days and that police were not responding to his calls to report the van at the location. In a quote, the question we have is, how did this vehicle even get released back to the owner from the previous incident, Fabrini asked. And KTVU reached out to police, who said that someone was likely able to retrieve the van after it had been impounded and left the vehicle at that location. They said officers have attempted to contact the van's owner without any success, which led to the city tagging the vehicle. Police said the tagged van was expected to be towed back to impound within 72 hours. And as for the driver of the van, investigators said he has since been released from the hospital and that he was not facing any criminal charges. Well, I just still have all kinds of questions about this, but I want to see what you guys have to say. And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News Hour. What do y'all think?
How bummed was the towing company that all that weed was gone by the time they got the van?
The weed is still sitting in the van, Todd. It's still in there.
Nobody wants to smoke butane doused weed.
That is not true. That is not true, Nicole. I have seen homeless people rummage through dumpsters looking for this type of smoke before. And so that is not true. There is someone that does want to smoke
like
it.
A headache.
Look, in the back of my
sounds so miserable.
Yeah, in our laboratory, we throw away weed, used weed all the time. We even autoclave it, and people still go through our dumpsters looking for a little piece of something, even though it's got all kinds of
they don't care
chemicals on it. No, they don't care.
They're already homeless. You think they care?
They don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah. I literally have to keep my dumpsters inside my my warehouse. So people
you're talking about an analytical lab, right?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're talking about we're talking about operators that are throwing away like, metric tons a week, and these fools are in these dumpsters going in
No, we're
these
not.
things.
Oh,
I'm
no,
talking about at my dispensary in West Hollywood.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
talking about at like a manufacturing or whatever, like where
They,
they're doing
they don't
this
care
process.
what the place is, Saman. They're
They
trying
don't
to get
care.
the weed to smoke it because it's in
Jason,
there and they want to smoke for free.
Yeah, Jason, you're not throwing away butane hash laden
How do you know I've
flour.
never thrown away butane hash in my trans can before?
Not butane hash, but the flour. I mean, I don't know. Okay, we're not getting into all that,
right.
though. We're not getting into all that.
No, my whole point was they'll take anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Our weed has methanol in it and ethanol in it, and acetonitrile and all kinds of shit. So we always, autoclave everything to actually render it useless and to get rid of all of the microbiology that is found on there too. But they still take it. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, what they say: when you're poor, you'll smoke the spores. I guess.
Is that what they say, Saman?
That's what they say.
I guess I've never been poor then, because I've never heard that before.
Well, I mean, you
That's
haven't,
terrible.
Jason. Look at you where you're at, Jason. You're in the luxurious Mar-a-Lago. I think you're the epitome of opulence, my friend.
Well, we already knew that from the beginning.
All right, moving on.
Hold on. What do you think about this, Gretchen? What do you think about this? I'm surprised they haven't towed this van already, and I'm surprised that they left it unattended with the doors open for just anyone just to go and rummage. I'm surprised that there aren't kids in the street that are taking all these clippings and throwing them up like it's fall and just like making leaf piles with it.
I figure it's just some indoor booth like you sell, Jason, and so that's why they don't care about it.
Shots fired.
And it is indoor booth because it's already been ran. It's like, it's not, it's not desirable weed smoke. I would never smoke this crap.
It does not surprise me. It's just sitting there. Do you really think this is a priority for them to move along?
Well, as far as much as the DCC is concerned, as far as how we have to maintain our trash and everything else like that, yes, I would say that I'm extremely surprised that law enforcement is allowing for this van just to stay with the doors open in the back seat with all of this hazardous waste in the back, and they're not doing anything about it.
Okay, well,
Maybe
why don't
we
you
need a
call up
van
Nicole
memo.
Elliott and see if they will get out their private security force that is going to go around enforcing all this to tow away the van.
Who?
Why don't you get on that? Nicole Elliott.
Nicole Elliott? You want me to send her a tweet?
My point is that there is nobody to take care of this stuff. Nobody to care. I don't care what y'all say about how much the DCC cares. They don't. They don't care. The police don't care.
They like
Nobody
to act
cares.
like they do.
Move along.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
I don't
Move
know.
along.
I wonder if Mr. Benson, he says this is a good example of Santa Rosa, and I just wonder if they're going to pull up to that intersection and extract all the weed out of there.
No. Moving along.
Moving along. All right, we're going to go to ad. We're going to
Shame.
back. Yeah, we'll see you guys in a second.
Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, you need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good thing the law offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. They're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com.
Oh, yeah, you guys. The thoughts and opinions and general overall shade thrown at High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News or its audience or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. If you're an easily offended person, this show is probably not for you, and maybe you should pull up to Santa Rosa and grab some of this free weed out of the van. Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. Well, coming up next, She's a little purple-haired princess. She's a cannabis patient, a plant medicine advocate, and she's also the founder of Purple Plant Magic and a national ambassador for Black Buddha Cannabis. You can also find her on every Wednesday on the Encyclopedia on Power 88 in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's right. It is none other than the Nicole Buffong.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Jason. So animated. All right, today, folks, my story comes out of South Africa. You know how I like to do it. Cannabis industry plans for South Africa have stalled. How to get them moving again. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa recently reiterated plans to accelerate the commercialization of hemp as well as cannabis plants. His speech setting out government's priorities for 2023 was a reminder of a pledge in 2022. Also in his State of the Nation address that the government would mobilize investment in the hemp and cannabis sectors. In his speech, the president indicated that government is in the process of addressing the conditions for the growth of the cannabis sector, particularly for rural farmers. The Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, and the Department of Health are working closely to address the existing conditions for growing hemp and cannabis to enable outdoor cultivation and harvesting by rural farmers. Currently, farmers who have licenses grow their hemp and cannabis indoors under controlled conditions. The commercialization will allow them to farm outdoors on a larger scale. This is very exciting. The industry has the potential to create jobs, alleviate poverty, and help reduce the extreme inequality in South Africa. One estimate is that the sector has the potential to create more than 130,000 new jobs. The opportunity to commercialize the cannabis industry is that it is a new, fast-growing, multi-billion-dollar sector with local international markets. First, that the government fails. There are challenges. First, the government fails to implement changes needed to ensure the sector grows in a way that benefits township and rural entrepreneur farmers. The second is that from mid-2022, small-scale farmers farm cannabis promised to be issued with licenses to farm legally. However, some farmers in the rural areas of the Eastern Cape are still waiting. The way forward. Firstly, the presidency must reinstate the cannabis master plan, working groups, and work streams. They must be allowed to finalize the review and revision of the current master plan. The revised master plan should enable the inclusion of township entrepreneurs and rural farmers. The wheel should not be reinvented, neither should time and effort be wasted. Investments in the hemp and cannabis sector should only be implemented once the master plan has been reviewed and revised. And lastly, they say a monitoring and evaluation committee needs to be set up to look after the hemp and cannabis project implementation. It should be set up in the same way as the working groups were formed, with representatives from all interested players. It's interesting that some of these suggestions are coming out of, I've seen different states set this up in the same way with work groups and work sessions. They're doing it right now in Las Vegas with consumption lounges. We're introducing a new machine here. And so there's going to be a work group that's going to be put together to discuss what that looks like for consuming or combustion inside. So this is just interesting, seeing this more structure come out of South Africa, but he's just kicking the can down the road. Because like this article says, he said it in 2022, he's saying it again in 2023, and nothing has progressed in the last year. So it's just interesting to watch this space. I know for a fact that the hemp farmers that are licensed, the majority of hemp farmers that are licensed in South Africa, guess what? No surprise, are the white citizens of South Africa and not the Black or the colored. I thought that was an interesting fact as well. But this is Nicole Buffong reporting from High at 9 News. I'd love to hear what my correspondents think about this story.
Nicole, did we find out what Elon Musk thinks about all this?
I don't care what Elon Musk thinks about all of this. He's probably one of the people that is funding some of these white farmers that are in South Africa, and none of the Black or colored. Another thing about South Africa, which is very interesting, you are either white, colored, or Black. They still have a name for people who are of lighter skin in Africa, believe it or not. So There's that.
And colored is the appropriate term?
Yes, it is. It means that you're mixed and not black, all black.
Ah.
It's weird and it blows my mind, but it is what it is.
It's very Archie Bunker-ish, don't you think?
Yes, it is.
Question
Yes, it
for
is.
you, Nicole.
Say it again.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Would you consider South Africa as corrupt as other countries in Africa where we've seen things going slow on the cannabis front?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All of them, same. It is the same business all over the continent, unfortunately. You don't really see too many countries where elected officials are not somehow in the pockets of somebody. And it's almost blatant of who they're in the pockets of. A lot of it is other countries like China, but a lot of it corporations wanting to use the labor there and the land, of course.
This is fascinating. I mean, South Africa is they've had so many problems throughout the years, and it also too is one of the most developed countries in Africa. Is correct, Nicole?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, you can go to South Africa and still feel like you're in the U.S. to some degree.
Johannesburg, Cape Town, all the, it's got some thriving urban city areas. I have a colleague right is in South Africa working with ACHEM, Dr. Kaya. I heard she used to be on the show, but she is actively working and kind of seeing what is happening on the ground there. And that's how I know that most of the people who are growing in South Africa are white people, white license owners or white landowners.
This is
in the cannabis and hemp space, and they're getting their genetics from Germany, from Europe, not using the genetics local to South Africa, which is such a shame. It's such a shame.
Basically growing Canadian boof.
Exactly.
Right. So that's where Germany
it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I don't know about that. I think that what happened was they went and, took those plants back to Europe and bred with them and still have those probably, landrace genetics there potentially, but I don't know where they're getting them from. That's like, we can't say for sure, but, that's been happening forever, I mean, strain
it's
hunters
the way that the laws are set up. So they have to have a certain amount of THC in the seed and the genetics, and so that's why they're not using local genetics and demanding that you have to bring in genetics from another country that meet those requirements.
Well, that's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of countries just adjacent to that too, Lesotho and other places that are doing stuff like this, and Africa is interesting. It's also like breaking apart or something. I was watching this thing. It's crazy. So South Africa might be its own island soon. Who knows? Who knows?
Like Florida.
Over here in the clubhouse chat, Uwe is like, it's colonization. South Africa has notoriously been fair. Apartheid. Come on, why are we so ignorant to the consequences of colonialism like it didn't happen to America when we split?
Well, according to Florida, it didn't happen to America. According to what they're teaching kids in school.
Florida is probably one of the last beacons of freedom in the United States of America.
Oh, please.
Fuck that. Jason Beck. Oh my God. Florida really is its own country.
Please.
Like the way that it's going, it doesn't even make any sense. How are you going to tell the Rosa Parks story and not include the fact that it was because of the laws, like the racism that was involved in her entire story? It doesn't make any sense. How do you tell American history and don't tell the truth? It doesn't.
And they have their own mascot, Florida Man. I mean, like that's like a race of people. Actually, I think that's like its own situation.
You think Florida Man is a race of people?
I think so. I think that there are. Yes, I think so. I mean, it was a joke, obviously, but I'm like, yeah. I mean, like, Florida does some crazy shit that nobody else in the world does. I mean, it's always in Florida.
Hold on, I don't believe that. I think
100%. Just by reading the headline.
No. Hold on. I think people do all kinds of this crazy shit all over the place. It just so happens that people cover it and make it news in Florida.
Please.
Nah, not in today's age, bro. Not in today's age. Everyone's got a cell phone. Everyone's got a cell phone. Everyone can
crazy shit that happens in California every day, and none of
Florida's crazier. Florida's crazier, I think.
I'm not.
How
I
about
grew
all
up-
that crazy shit happening in South Africa? Why don't we get back onto
Back to that, right?
Yeah.
Good Lord. Nepal.
Well, I
What's
appreciate y'all your
Yeah.
comments for this story.
We try, Nicole. We try. I do want to see like some amazing things come out of Africa. I mean, overall, I mean, there's so many resources there. There's so many natural landrace strains there, and I'm willing to bet that there's a number of strains out there that are probably extremely high in a lot of the compounds that have medical value within cannabis
Exactly.
that are not as much grown out here in the U.S.
That's right. That's right, Jason. I cannot wait to see the land races actually thrive in the continent that it comes from, that is indigenous to and this plant. And so working hard with teams on the ground, with my organizations, ACAM, shout out to my ACAM family. That's Association of Cannabis Health Equity and Medicine. Follow us, support us, but we're working on some things on the continent and throughout the Caribbean that really emphasize how important it is for them to tap into their land race genetics that are local to their country. Because that is where the true value is going to be, using those plants to extract medicine that can cure HIV, you won't even get COVID because of the CBDA and CBGA potency of these unique strains. And
don't let Pfizer hear you say that.
And the varins too,
Exactly.
the cannabivarins too, the THCV, CBDV,
all of it,
dominance in a lot of that. That's
What
like
besides
the Durban poison. The Durban poison is purported to have a lot of THCV or more of a percentage of THCV
Exactly.
than other chemovars, but that is because of where it comes from and like the latitude and longitude of where it comes from. Sure.
Exactly. It's all about growing there, just like Jamaica. Yep. When I covered that story, you can't grow Jamaican cannabis in Canada and then sell it back to the Jamaicans. Come on. How much sense does that make?
But it's like any laws.
Off the gas.
None of this shit's gonna make any sense. It's gonna be because people like make deals and under certain circumstances. That's how it is. And get ready for that because it's just exploitation on exploitation for Africa in general. So right. Not just in South Africa, all over the continent. This has been the thing, for years. Like they've been moving to this, and a lot of other countries are competing there, and that on that field, and it's like kind of crazy. So we'll see what happens. But China, you said like China's probably doing a lot of investment. And it's true. They just they're brokering peace with Iran and Saudi Arabia right now to like just continue the future of oil. Yep. Well, it's not influence, it's oil, right? It's like Iran has all the oil because Saudi's running out, but they have all the refineries.
What China ultimately wants is for them to be able to purchase fuel with their own currency and not the US dollar.
What I would love is for us to actually stay on topip. What's our next?
Why what's the fun in that? What's the fun in that, Gretchen? We're stoners. Like, come on.
Gretchen keeps on rolling up to the set.
Rabbit holes.
It's time for a commercial.
Yeah, we got one more. Let's go to commercial. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Coming up next, it's the man with a lab. That's right. It's not a hash making lab. It's your testing lab. That's right. He's the founder of DigiPath Labs and the voice of the National Marijuana News Network. That's right. It is. You're going to think his name is fake, but his name is actually real. It is the man, Mr. Todd Denkin.
And the crowd goes wild. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jay. Well, my story today comes from the Montana Free Press. It's about a Senate bill that will eliminate adult use marijuana dispensaries in Montana. On Friday, Senator Keith Regier, who's a Republican from Kalispell, introduced a bill to dismantle the adult use cannabis industry in Montana. Senate Bill 546 contains several provisions that would drastically alter the state's marijuana marketplace. Primarily, it focuses on eliminating adult use dispensaries. The bill additionally raises the state tax on medical marijuana from 4% to 20%. That makes sense. And puts significant limits on medical marijuana potency and allowable amounts for possession. While the bill prohibits non-medical marijuana sales, it does not recriminalize marijuana possession for adults, and it also halves the number of plants an adult can grow at home from 2 mature plants to 1. According to the bill, SB 546 intends in part to reduce the demand for marijuana sales in Montana. The bill currently does not have any co-sponsors. Shocking. Senator Jason Small, another Republican from Busby, Montana, and he is the chair of the Senate Business, Labor, and Economic Affairs Committee, confirmed to the Montana Free Press Monday that his committee will hold a hearing on SB 546 tomorrow. That's Wednesday, March 29th. As of press time, Regier has not responded to multiple requests for comment. If passed into law, the bill would drastically reduce the potential consumer base for existing marijuana businesses and eliminate a significant source of revenue for state coffers. Since adult use sales began in January of 2022, Montana has generated $54 million in tax revenue from the industry. Less than 1/10 of that revenue came from medical marijuana sales taxes. And currently, recreational customers pay a 20% tax to the state, and in some counties, they add an additional 3% local tax. Based on the same sales data, the industry under SB 546 would have only generated less than half as much tax revenue in that time period of $20,926,000. Zach Block, the owner of Montana Canna, a dispensary in Kalispell, said, if SB 546 passes, it would render the entire cannabis program worthless, not only for operators, but also for consumers and patients in the state. You'd be delivering a subpar product to a small group of people, and you're ignoring the majority of the worthy demographic. As of press time Monday morning, the State Department of Revenue, which administers both the adult use and medical marijuana programs in Montana, had not responded to a request for comment. Seems nobody wants to comment on this because it's so stupid. SB 546 also caps potency for marijuana flower sold under the medical program. Current law prohibits the sale of marijuana flower that contains more than 35% THC, which, of course, is the primary active compound in the plant. SB 546 would lower that ceiling to 10% THC in all flower. It also halves the amount of permissible THC in edible products from 10 milligrams of THC to 5 milligrams, and dictates that concentrated marijuana extracts contain no more than 10% THC. The bill also drastically lowers the amount of marijuana that a medical patient can purchase from 5 ounces per month, or its equivalent in other forms, such as edibles and tinctures, to a single ounce per month. I don't think that's enough for anybody on this webcast right now. Block of Montana Canna also said that those caps would render medical marijuana less capable of addressing patients' needs. A cap on potency would take our collection of effective products and diminish them into something unrecognizable and not necessarily sufficient to consumers and patients. Once again, a red guy trying to destroy what's been built up in Montana, which is a thriving marijuana industry. I'm Todd Denkin with High at 9 News. Jason, how do you respond?
This guy cannot call himself a Republican, in my opinion. This guy is an undercover Democrat in the disguise of a Republican, because we all know Democrats love to overtax and overregulate, and that is exactly what you explained in this bill, Todd. So this guy needs to turn in his R for a D, and the Republican Party needs to totally reject him, because he's all about overtaxation without representation and overregulation, all in the sake of protecting the children.
It seems as if he's just trying to ruin the marijuana industry as a whole. You know, I don't think.
I think he needs
So
to go
whose
back to
pocket
his
is
roots.
he in? The pharmaceutical company,
He needs
or
to go back to his roots of Republican core values, which are less tax, less government regulation, and he needs to focus on those core values before he comes out with another bill.
and
Todd, I have a
so
question.
when these senators present bills like this, don't they have to have other people, like other like co-sponsors of the bill, like somebody else that
No.
is in agreement with this bullshit?
No, you can
No.
introduce any type of bill that you want as being a member, but whether or not you're able to garner support for it and get co-sponsors, that's on your own accord.
Yeah, this bill does not currently have any co-sponsors.
Yeah,
So
Any
this
other
guy's
Republicans
saying
jump on
no to
bandwagon, I'll
$54
say the
million.
same thing, Tom.
Todd, in
Yes.
the story, is there anything that actually gives his reasoning behind trying to kill the adult use market?
He really has no reason other than this is what he is proposing. It's interesting. I wonder what his reasons are, but like Nicole said, he's probably in somebody's pocket, you know, who is opposing the industry as a whole. But it does not mention that. No.
He's definitely not about freedom and liberty if he's trying to restrict by THC percentage, because we all know it's fake numbers and none of these testing machines are given appropriate numbers even in the first place.
He only wants boof pot in Montana.
Well, you might as well. That's where they have a thriving hemp market.
Right.
Well, this is not the first sign of trouble Montana's had before. So I'm trying to determine what is the issue with Montana. I mean, they legalized at one point, they got it taken back in the courts, and they brought it back again. Clearly, Montana is a little torn here, at least their lawmakers on how cannabis should be moving forward there.
Yeah, now that John Dutton's the governor, I think he should just handle things.
Is that it? That's well, you know, one of our audience members is actually from Montana, and he says guarantee it's Steve Zababwa from Billings. And so, Jesse Barney, I hope you can elaborate a little bit more. Oh, there we go. He owns a big car dealership and has been the biggest enemy of Montana weed since the beginning. So
yeah, but Montana, as we know, grew literally like the third most weed in the country. Third was a state that grew the third most amount of like cannabis.
Hold on, when
in
the Farm Bill
country.
was enacted, they were the number one state.
Number one state, yeah,
years.
and they did a lot of hemp, and then they also did a lot of cannabis. And I think that just like everything in those types of states where the politics are so thick and kind of muddy in some areas, is those guys are going to like protect, you know, their little situation that they're carving out, and they're going to keep everybody out of it. And of course, they have those, you know, representatives, you know, in the pocket, so to speak, especially in those areas, because farmers rule. And so if you're a big landowner or potentially like a car dealership owner, whatever, you know, that you have some pull in those circles, and you're getting some of that revenue potentially. It's all money. I mean, we already know that, but you know, politics we're ripe with controversy here in California too, as we all know. So it's just what it is, part of the whole game. You're bringing in a whole new industry. Of course, you're going to have to rub elbows, you know, as Jason calls it, you know, just being the man on the hill, and you're going to have to.
We also
figure
call it
that
being
out.
the highest Republican, Simon. According
Oh, that's right, the highest Republican, definitely the highest,
Oh man. Jesse also says that Steve is in bed with Big Pharma, which is no surprise at all. But this guy, seriously, you cannot call yourself a conservative or a Republican if you're advocating from going from a 4% tax to a 20% tax. I'm just sorry. You need to turn in the towel, and I think that the RNC should probably reject your application next time.
Agreed.
Why are you shaking your head, Gretchen?
I mean, I think there are arguments that could be made that he does not have to give away his Republican card, simply because he is taxing the shit out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to understand more what is going through this man's head. I would just love a reason.
You'd like to know what's going on in his head? Well, I bet you it's Big Pharma, and he doesn't have any normal cannabis people talking to him. I happen to have a good friend out there I'm going to reach out to in Montana who deals with a lot of Montana politics. I'm going to reach out to him and ask him what's really going on out there, see if we can offer some leverage. But we're going to keep this show going. Oh, and I do want to remind everybody, please make sure that you go over to our website today. There's an article that we just posted up there All right. It is a brand new piece on interstate commerce, authored by yours truly, and it's titled "Let's Talk About the Interstate Cannabis Commerce Update." And so I encourage everyone to go over there, read it, highat9news.com. You can spell it out or just make it a number, however you want to make the 9. We totally let you choose whichever way you want to go with that. All right. But now, coming up next and landing this plane, that's right, it is Saman Razani. Saman is a formulation formulator who loves to grow cannabis and design facilities, but he also likes to remind women in menopause how to say hello again. That's right, it is none other than the Saman Razani.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of our fans out there. I got a hot story out of our favorite state of the moment, New York. New York in the news. New York's first licensed cannabis store owned by a woman will be rolling up joints in Queens starting Thursday. Shout out to all the homies in Jamaica, Queens out there. The pop-up dispensary at 16203 Jamaica Ave will be called Good Grades and run by owner Ecstasy James. Governor Kathy Hochul's office said Monday. It's also the first licensed cannabis shop to open in Queens. We are incredibly passionate about providing great access to cannabis and breaking down the barriers that prevent so many people, especially those from marginalized communities, from experiencing the benefits of this amazing plant, James said in a statement. We understand firsthand the stigma that has been attached to cannabis for far too long, and we are eager to join the thriving cannabis community to help change that. Our dispensary is a welcoming and inclusive space where anyone can come to learn, explore, and find the products that are best suited for their unique needs. James will operate her family-owned business with her cousin, Michael James, a Jamaica, Queens native and lawyer. The pot store will officially open business Thursday at 2 p.m. Good Grades is opening with support from the State Dormitory Authority and New York State Social Equity Cannabis Investment Fund. With the opening of Good Grades in Queens, we're continuing to build on a progress to create a safe, regulated cannabis industry in New York, Hochul said in a statement. New York is working to support entrepreneurs and ensure that consumers can purchase safe, legal products while supporting their communities. Queens Borough President Donovan Richards praised the legalization of marijuana as crucial to the economic puzzle. The rollout of licensed cannabis shops since Albany legalized the recreational sale of marijuana 2 years ago has been slow and rocky, allowing an illicit market to flourish because the law did not adequately address enforcement. Mayor Eric Adams and the city's law enforcement now estimate that as many as 1,700 unlicensed dealers are selling cannabis at brick and mortar stores in broad daylight, while just a handful of state licensed dealers are open for business. The black market dealers are so brazen and unafraid that one unlicensed cannabis operator was even selling weed products right across from City Hall. It was closed, then reopened, and then closed again. Hochul pitched legislation last week to stiffen fines against unlicensed weed dealers and make it easier for shops. There's a strong possibility the tougher penalties will be There's a strong possibility the tougher penalties will be included in the new state budget due Saturday, April 1st. Queensboro President Donovan Richards was excited that the weed revolution has finally arrived in the world's borough. He said entrepreneurs can now sell cannabis legally instead of being prosecuted. What was once a tool used to target communities of color is finally a crucial and legal piece in our economic puzzle that will create jobs, wealth, and opportunities to the same communities, Richards said in a statement. This story is interesting. I think the story is great, but the way they wrote it was very interesting and telling. This was like in the New York Post. So, they're calling these people dealers still. They're continuing the pejoratives that have just plagued the community. So it's like, the press isn't really helping the situation there, I don't think. But an interesting story nonetheless. I love that woman-owned business is opening, and they're gonna do their thing, and very happy to hear that. My fellow humanoids on this show and in our audience, what do you all think about this?
I mean, Saman, You really excited about this store?
I think it's great. It's a woman-owned store, man. You got to applaud that. You got to say, hey, look, that's great. That's first of all, that takes a lot of courage, for a minority woman to own a business like that when there's not a lot of businesses. So, so kudos to her. But yeah, I'm excited about that. That's cool. I support women businesses. I'm partners with a women-owned business, and we support it all day because you just can't leave out the fact that women have been marginalized in our industry and in our communities and our society for so long. So I was raised by a woman. I'm a girl dad. Future is female, man.
Oh,
that's right. And the plant is female, or the one that we like so much.
Mm-hmm. I love girls.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think that this is good. I'm looking to see how New York supports the social equity applicants or license winners. I shout out to Nicole. I can't think of her last name right now, but she's a farmer in New York that received a cannabis license to grow cannabis. She was a hemp grower, sister out there that I met last year during MJ Unpacked. And so I think that I just want to see, because I know there's supposed to be a fund that's supposed to be helping these social equity applicants as well. And that's something that's a little bit different than what everybody else has done and how they've done it. So we're just waiting and seeing. But I mean, I like to hear it. I love to hear it. I want to see more like this, but I also want to see how they plan on with everything that is required to open up shop.
I mean, we know that they're gonna fail on that, Nicole. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, we already know. We've already seen that story.
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I like what I hear.
But that's why we're telling the story, though. That's why we're telling the story, because it's not up to the government. Right. It's up to the community to uplift and support those
them.
business
that's
owners,
right.
and that's the reality. So again, it's not just about always women or whatever, but it's like, for real. Like if you're doing some stuff, it's going to be tough. We know it's tough. Just everybody gather around those people and lift them up. Obviously, if they're good people, if they're, if it's like something that is we don't want to support the wrong people, but we want to support the entrepreneurs, the small businesses, the people that are struggling out there to make it. That's who I want to support. I shouldn't speak for everybody, but that's who I want to support.
Absolutely. That's who I support. I look it up as soon as I get to the city. I do the same thing with my food and restaurants. I'm always looking for the local spots. I'm always making sure that I'm supporting locally when I go to that place. And it's important. It really is. I'll go out of my way to support a locally owned business rather than convenience.
There's just something to it.
Come on, man.
Go ahead, Gretchen. Go ahead. Gretchen's been waiting to talk.
I think that one thing that we are totally missing in this conversation is that this is the first dispensary that is supported by DASNY, by the state. This is social equity. This is the first one that they have actually put all these resources behind, that the dormitory we've been waiting on to actually go out there and help somebody open a shop is happening. So to me, that's the bigger point of this story. Not that it's a woman-owned business or whatever, but this is the first one that the state's social equity provision, the DASNY is going to.
So she got some money from that fund that they didn't raise all the money for?
Gretchen.
I don't know if they're getting the money from the fund, but yes, this is the first one, which DASNY
under that program.
Yes, under that program.
That's interesting.
And where does that program get its funding from then, Gretchen?
The money is supposed to come from the fund. However, I do not know if it actually did.
So they probably have squandered taxpayer funds to pay for this.
Okay, now taxpayer funds are not what's funding the fund. Jason Beck, you love to throw around taxpayer dollars like everything comes from taxpayer dollars. You're an idiot. No, private investors are supposed to be taking care of the fund. That is by what's his name?
Michael Bloomberg?
No, Michigan basketball player.
Michigan basketball player.
He was in the scandal, Michigan, back in the day. The guy our age. Come on, you know who this is. You know that.
I don't follow basketball like that.
Anyway, he was the one who was brought in with his fund to raise the money. Chris Webber.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
So Chris Webber funded this business. How come it doesn't make any money?
The business. I'm saying his investment firm was the one brought in to raise the funds for the New York program.
So, like I said, Chris Webber, how come they didn't mention any of that in this story?
Well, because they're not as educated as I am when it comes to the New York market. What do you want me to say? The New York Post didn't call me.
I'm just saying they should have.
I'm just saying I could tell them a lot about what's going on in New York, but nobody asked me.
We always ask you, Gretchen. We always listen for your opinion.
She's the ears on the ground. That's right. She knows what's happening.
I got ears everywhere. Big ears.
I bet she got her ears to the street. She got her dog's ears. Her dog's got supersonic hearing. I'm surprised they don't run away when they hear those pajamas come out.
They can hear it. They love it all.
They do not love that. Stop.
They love their pajamas. They're the best. Don't talk about my baby's pajamas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I do wish them the best and wish them the most success. But the reality is Gretchen, since you know so much about New York, how much revenue has the New York stores done in like the first or second month, or maybe even the first quarter? How much revenue have those stores done?
It's too soon to say, Jason. Those numbers are not in yet, but I will be happy to bring them to you when they are actually reported. Come on.
It is the illegal dispensaries making all the money these days.
Todd. That's exactly what I'm going into as my point. They're actually doing nothing, no type of enforcement to help these markets succeed.
What would you prefer that they do? What would you like? Do you want them to go in and just start sweeping the street corners? Because everyone knows they don't want that to happen. They tried fining them, and the fines are a joke. The fines are $250.
Hold on.
What's the point of that?
Why is Benson saying $328? Do they add something to let you process it? That in the
I don't know what Benson is referring to. But I do know that it's 1:00 and time to wrap it up. And a final thought from Gretchen Gailey: dog pajamas are essential. I'm starting a new line. That'll be my next business. A line of
dog essentials.
I bet.
Dog essentials.
I bet. Oh man, I know where she's getting the money from to start her whole new business. Mm-hmm. I know the funders.
Charging Jason for the data collection. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all for getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank you to our audience and supporters for always tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Thank you to all of our haters for always talking and thinking about us, because we have the most immaculate pieces of property rent-free inside of your head. I think I'm actually going to open up a trap shop free inside of your head, just because why not? There's no enforcement in your head. And huge thank you to True Classic, iSpire, Wizard Trees, DNA Genetics, LAXCC, and a whole bunch more. Thank you all to our correspondents for being truly amazing, and thank you to Cannabis for giving us a reason to do this on the regular. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners, House of Fuego, Green Street, and of course Zaza Simone Brown holding it down in Clubhouse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. It's America's #1 daily cannabis news show.